Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing 10 from AEG. And 10 is a push your luck bidding set collection game. In 10, what you're trying to do is you're trying to collect sets of numbers. There's going to be 4 different colors in the game, and you're trying to get the longest run as possible in each of the 4 colors. So let's just go ahead and walk you through a turn, and from there it'll make a lot of sense. Let's pretend it's my turn. I'm starting, like I said already, it's push your luck and auction. So I'm going to start with revealing the first card, which is a 3. Now, as long as I don't exceed 10, I won't bust, and I'll be able to take a bunch of stuff. Those stuff we'll see in a second how it plays out. That's 8. That's not looking good. I'm going to go ahead and stop and take those 2 cards. And now I have, well, these 2 cards. I started my runs of green and orange. That's great. I now end the game with 2 points, if the game were to end now. Because at the end of the game, you're going to score points for your longest run in each of the 4 colors. And so having a 5 and a 7 is still only 1 point. The longest run there is 5 or 7, just 1. Having 5, 6, 7 is, well, 3 points. And so you're trying to achieve sets of those numbers going from 1 through 9, although there's multiple catches, we've only just begun. We'll go ahead to the next player. Next player goes ahead. We draw 6. Good thing I didn't keep going. That would have busted me. We draw another card, and now we have currency cards, which are going to mix up your experience. You see, currency cards are going to be giving you money in the game. Money you can use to buy cards, as well as to run auctions, which will happen as cards come out. The problem with currency cards, or not really the problem, but they additionally help you lower the value of your number. So right now I actually have 6 minus 1 is my total. But you bust either if you hit 11 currency in total, or if you hit 11 in the numbers in total. So looking pretty good. We have a 5. I have a decent chance of not busting because there are more lower numbers than higher numbers. We'll talk about that later, although that didn't unfortunately help me here. Despite having a better chance, we had 5 plus 6 is 11. And so unfortunately what happens now is I've busted. Other players are going to get currency whenever you don't get currency, either through busting or by not taking currency, because we haven't shown you how that works. Other players will go ahead and get that amount of currency. I will get a little bust token, which is worth 3, and then this will go off to this card, and these will join the card market where other players can buy them. We'll keep going. We'll draw a card back to this player over here. I'm just simulating a 2-player game just for the sake of showing you. We have a 2 plus a 1. That's looking pretty good. That's just a mere total of 3. A 5. This is looking really good. I'm going to keep going. Ooh, an 8. I'm going to call that a day. This player's having a much better game, by the way, and this deck, by the way, is not ordered. I usually should order these things for these reviews, but I don't. And so we just have this random assortment of cards coming out, and I'm dealing with them as they come out. Back to this player over here. We're going to keep drawing, hoping for better luck. We have a 4 wild. Excellent. This is the part of the game I want to cover because this is going to be covering auctions. That 4 over there is one of, well, it's the only wild 4 we have in the deck. There's going to be the numbers 1 through 9 in wild, so you have each of those available. There's 1 wild of each, and then there's going to be color wilds, which are a specific color, but the number of your choice. And so now this player would love to get that 4. It could be helpful for any of their sets. With 2 3s and a 5, that 4 can go in basically any single set right now. And so they're going to start the bid. Well, it's actually their turn. They get to start the bid, and every player has 1 chance of bidding. And this is where it gets tricky, because they're going to go ahead and bid their 3, hoping that they lock it. Well, they're not going to pay it just yet. They're bidding 3, hoping they can lock it in. This player only has 1, but you can actually bid your cards as well, which is an interesting, tricky situation, because while your cards are generally worth points, as you start getting duplicates, extra cards are not going to be worth points, and each card you bid is worth 1. And additionally, as the game progresses further, you might find that, hey, you have a run of cards, and that those cards in the end aren't getting extra points because they aren't contributing to your run, so giving them up to get something that does help you is not the worst. In this case, it's too early in the game for us to go to 4. We're going to go ahead and give that 4 to them, call it a day, and then keep going. An interruption does not stop your turn because everyone can participate in an auction. So we're going to keep going, drawing cards. Oh my gosh. And this is not great. You see, right now we have nothing to bid. So we're going to bid 0, they're going to bid 1, and they're going to be the lucky recipient of a very, very cheap wild. That was not cool. That's not cool. Although it will be helpful for the review part of things because I plan on talking about that aspect happening. Then we have another one. Oh boy. Okay, maybe I should have shuffled these. We're gonna stop now, but you get the general sense of things. The general idea. Let's just go ahead and go through one more sequence over here, showing you how some things could work. We're gonna draw a 9, and then I'm specifically going to look for some cards over here so I can simulate something. If I can just get a few of the wilds, not the wilds, the currency tokens. Let's go ahead and throw a currency down. We put that out, we put that out over here. Now I have a choice. I can continue drawing, or I can just take the currency. At any given point, you can either take the numbers and other players get the currency. In which case, if I take this 9 right now, the other players would get 9 currency each, although they do have a maximum of 10, so for some players it may not help them as much as that. Alternatively, if I take the currency, then the 9 goes to the market where it can then be purchased, because at the end of your turn, if you went through a buy phase, meaning if you took cards, if you took the numbers, you then have the opportunity to also go through a buy phase where you buy a card from the market, paying its cost in chips. So those 9s going to be more expensive than the 3s, although that's relevant because depending on the player count, well, no matter what player count, there's always more of the lower numbers than there are of the higher numbers. Depending on the player count, it might vary. So you might have only 1 of 7, 8, or 9, and 2 of 4, 5, and 6, and then multiples of the 1, 2s, and 3s. So you're always trying to be mindful of the player count, of the number of cards in the game, because that rarity will determine things. If there's only one 9, if there's only one orange 9, then my only chances of getting an orange 9 in my sequence are the orange 9, or alternatively a color wild, or alternatively the 9 wild. That's not a lot of chances, and so getting those cards that are right for you, that are right for your sequence, are huge in this game. Rinse and repeat until the deck runs out, and that is basically 10. Like I said already, it's a push your luck auction set collection game. The push your luck as you keep drawing cards, hoping you don't bust. The auction as various wilds come into play and players deal with the ramifications of the auction. And then the set collection as this player clearly wins, just in this hypothetical 3-turn scenario. And that is basically 10 from AEG, which brings us to the review part of things, starting off with ease of play. Rules are incredibly easy, teach is incredibly easy, slight nitpick with the player aid. There's actually a great player aid that goes through the sequence of how it works, if you bust, if this, if that, and it leaves out the one aspect that you can't actually buy from the market if you take the currency tokens, which means I have a player area that gives me 95% accurate information and leaves out a fairly important piece of information. So if you're going by the player aid, it's not going to help you. You need to know the rules, and the player aid can help serve as a semi-reminder. I find player aids are such an important part of games that when a player aid actually is missing essential information, it's almost as bad as not having it entirely. And so that's a bit of a nitpick on the accessibility, on the ease of play there. But past that, the teach is easy, the rules are easy. The table space is fairly small. You could get larger runs of cards, so at higher player counts, it will take up more than you would think it is, but still not a huge amount. And then the game time, I do find that this game, I mean, it's rated as being 15 to 30 minutes. I find it generally exceeds that 30-minute range. Then again, maybe we're just overthinking things as we play and not acting, instinctively right away. I tend to find it comes in around the 30 to 40 minutes as opposed to the 15 to 30 minutes. Again, that might be a group-dependent thing. As far as player count, this is a 1 to 5 player game. I so far only play this at 3 and 4 players. I can see it working at all counts, but I think so far 3 is the sweet spot for me based on my plays, although it's worth noting that if you look at Board Game Geek and their rankings, 4 seems to be the preferred player count. For me, I like the rarity of specific cards at the 3 player count. I like the fact that I'm taking my turn more frequently, and I find that 3 is a good enough number to give me that tension over the auctions while still giving me the rest of the player experience as being fairly optimal. 4 is totally fine. It's just I like 3 better. As far as the solo game, I haven't even looked at the rules for that, so I can't comment on the solo game, but I would think this game would work anywhere in the 2 to 5 player count. 2 might be a little less tense, a little easier to get sets, a little easier to win auctions, but yeah, for me, 3 is currently the sweet spot for the game. As far as interaction, you're inherently competing over the auctions, but past that, your turns are your own. It's multiplayer solitaire. You keep drawing cards, hope you don't bust. The auctions are the only real interplay, although there is interplay there. As far as what I like, don't like, and see others not liking. First of all, bidding for wilds. Bidding for wilds gives you a lot of interesting choices to make in the game, especially when you combine with the fact that you can actually bid some of the cards that you already have in your engine. Whether they're duplicates, which are easy decisions, but then really the ones that are most interesting to me is the fact that you can bid cards that you just have in your rows. And so other players have a choice to make there, because I have to sit there and try to think through, okay, great, I have 4 currency, you have 2, so I'm good to go, but also you could bid some of your cards, and I know you have a 1 over there followed by a 4, so that 1 might be willing to go, although it is early in the game. And so that mental mind game of trying to think through what other players are willing to pay, not just in currency but in cards that are tough. You don't want to lose those cards, but losing cards that wouldn't have helped you is not a problem. Losing cards that would have helped you is a problem. But it leads to an interesting decision point as I try to think through what the optimal bid is for me, even though I have more currency than you. In general, the push your luck. Push your luck in general is a mechanic I tend to appreciate. That aspect of, what if I just go 1 more? And this game has that. It very much has it as you draw cards, as you add currency, as you lower the numbers. It has a little bit of math as you try to sit there and keep recalculating the totals as you go, especially because there's a subtraction in there. It's not that subtraction is hard, but it can slow down the pace of the game if you keep drawing more and more numbers that have to constantly be updating. But past that, the push your luck is always enjoyable. And the rarity of cards. One of the reasons I prefer the 3-player count is because of the rarity. Knowing there's only 1, 7, 8, or 9 really puts an entirely different spin on the entire economy of the game. The fact that it's basically, those are my only chances. I have 3 chances for a single 9. I have the color rarity, the number, the color wild, the number wild, and then the 9 itself. And relying on wilds is never something that you can do, and so I like that tension. I like the rarity of the higher cards and playing around that rarity and buying those cards as a result, or trying to push your luck or not push your luck accordingly. Lots of fun there. Getting the right cards is more important in this game than getting a lot of cards, and that factors into your decision, that factors into the push your luck. Getting a bunch of extras that don't help you are not useful. Getting the right number in the sequence, getting that 7 when you have 5 and 6 and you have 8 and 9, that 7 is effectively a 5-point card for you right now, and getting it at the right time, or going for it, or buying it, or making sure in one way or another, or even bidding for the wild that helps you get it. Those are the decision points that end up mattering in 10. As far as things I don't like in 10, primarily the game feels a little long for what it is. The decision space is medium. There's some decisions primarily around the auctions, primarily around when to give up extra cards. Most of the time, though, the decision space also feels a little bit, simple. At the end of the day, when you push your luck, the math is usually pretty simple. Oh, no, okay, fine, I can go ahead and keep going because I have 7 left. I'll either bust or I won't. Sometimes luck will be against me, but the decisions are usually obvious. When you get to those middle numbers, oh, we have 4 left, do I go for it, do I not? What are the cards on the table? So it can get a little bit nuanced there. I would say the primary decision space tends to be around the auctions of the game. Past that, it's fairly scripted, and then ends up feeling a little long for what it is. If I was playing this in 15-30 minutes, I think my opinion would be a drop more favorable. The fact that it runs 30 to 40 for us means it's a good game, but it runs a little bit long for the experience that I'm getting out of it. As far as I can see others not liking, it's all numbers. This entire game is all about set collection, lots of math, lots of adding things up. Again, not difficult math, but frequent changes to the numbers. So you're going to be spending a lot of time just counting and looking and doing all that. If you want something more thematic, 10 is not going to give you that experience. Secondly, the busting can be incredibly frustrating when it happens when it shouldn't have happened. What I mean by that is if you sit there and you play out your 3 and you have 8 left and you go ahead and you're like, well, I'll go ahead and play... And now I bust. This card, which would have been amazing for me if it came out a second earlier, combined with that 3 makes me bust. And obviously I was going to keep going. Obviously the right play, when I only have 3 on the table, is to keep going. And so to bust when it's against the odds can feel frustrating. At the end of the day, push your luck is a little aspect of, can I get one more? But when you bust and you shouldn't have, or strictly speaking, statistically speaking, your odds were in your favor, well, the odds may ever be in your favor, but if they aren't, it can feel frustrating as you play through that, and so that's a factor that you want to take into account. And then similarly, what we even saw doing the initial walkthrough is the fact that auctions can come out at inopportune times can also be another factor of luck, good luck or bad luck, depending on who you are at the table. The idea that I might get a second auction right when I spent all my money, so I spend seven currency to get that wild, it's really helpful, and then another auction comes out right away, and now the money's depleted from the market. Now you can get that card for 3 or 2 or 1 because I already spent it on the last one. And so having an auction at an inopportune time can again be either frustrating for some players or overly rewarding for other players. And in a game which doesn't score that high, these small adjustments, these small changes can absolutely have an impact on the overall score and thus the experience. As far as final thoughts on 10, overall 10's a fine game. It has push your luck, set collection, auctions, it has a bunch of stuff that I tend to like in this style of games. And I don't have any major complaints against it, past the fact that I feel that if you want this genre, I feel I have better recommendations within it. 10 works, it does the job, it gives me push your luck, it gives me set collection, it gives me a fun experience, but it does so a little slower than some other games, and perhaps with a little less elegance in the way the mechanics combine, and as well as with a little bit more luck than some other games in the genre. Overall, it's a good game, one that I have fun with, one that I'm happy that I have dived into and played, but one that I don't feel the need to jump back into or return to. 10 is a 3 out of 5 for me. Solid experience, enjoyable, but one that I think there are other games that I would rather recommend in this genre. And speaking of recommendations, some of those other games are going to be No Thanks, which has that push your luck to a degree, and again, bidding aspect, but with a lot faster, a lot fast-paced, and a lot less luck in the experience, as well as For Sale. For Sale, which has less of the push your luck, but a lot more auction and bidding, and again, a whole lot less luck while giving you a lot of the same reward and feeling. Until next time, I am Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, have a good one.